All right, now cover stitch or the basting team, when you get your kit of shorts to be having the elastic based onto them, you will get, generally speaking, we'll have 5 per set. So you'll have 5 pairs of shorts and 5 elastics. Now the elastics will have been joined together like this. We use what's called a multi-step zigzag, and that zigzag works by working its way from left to right and then back over. So it's usually 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds like a dance. But rather than zigzag, zigzag just puts a point of pressure here and here, which has a tendency to want to pull these on top of each other. By doing the multi-step zigzag, they're flat. They're just butted up to each other, and they will lay nice and flat. There's no bump, which you will appreciate when you are running it under your machine. All right, so you're going to get that. So the first thing you're going to do is take the elastics and find the quarter marks. So here's 1 quarter mark. I used a marker. You can also use a pencil. You can use your marking pen. Even chalk might work because it doesn't have to be there very long. So I've got 3 marks plus this. Because it's flat, it doesn't really matter. This could be the center front, the center back. I guess you could put it on the side seam as well, but there's really not so much a side seam on your shorts. So once you've got this marked into quarters, it would be helpful to know what the quarter marks are on your shorts, right? And we have the center back, the center front, but we need to identify the midpoint between the center front and the center back. So what I did was lay them down and just made the tiniest of notches. Don't do a big one, that'll work against us. So we prefer just a tiny, or you could even do a little slit. You could do a pencil mark on the inside because that's going to fold under and nobody will ever see it. Whatever method you like, you're in charge on this step. But I do recommend you mark it because otherwise what does happen, and this happened to all of us, so I'm not pointing fingers anywhere without 4 of them pointing back at me, you can end up with all the bulk in one spot and then flat sections and then more bulk over here. And while that will still fit the tummy the same, it doesn't look nice. And like I said before, we're trying our best to up our game and really make these look great. So once I've got those marked, I'm going to go ahead and try to find which is the front and which is the back. And how you do that is if you hold the crotch seam like this, so that's where the inseam is, just hold that and you will see, look, one is longer than the other. So if you can picture the body's contour, obviously the longer needs to go in the back because when we bend toward the front, which means the back needs more fabric. So this is the center back and this is the center front. So for me, it's just my standard. You can decide how you want to do it. But once you do it one way, if you always do it that way, you don't have to wonder, was this the front or the back? Because because I like to know we mark the sizes on these when they get to the warehouse. And if we can see where this was, then we know that's the back and we'll mark, these are size 12 on the inside of that finished pair of shorts. Right here, we use a little marker and we'll write 12. So that way, when the mission teams get to the country they're going to, it's easy to dispense the shorts. So if this is going to go in the center back, that means my second quarter mark, not that one, but this one, that's going to go in the center front. Now, if you watched the first video, you know that cover stitch is done on the top side of a garment. So it's going to go like this. And we do ask the serger team to leave them turned wrong side out because you want them that way when you are going to do this step. I'm going to slide the shorts through the hoop, the hole, and then I'm going to line that second quarter mark up. And I kind of like to have it away from the top edge so that it won't show. That's just a me thing. You do you, whatever makes sense to you. That won't be a matter of quality control. And I'm going to pinch them. And I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? We haven't even talked about how that cover stitch machine is going to do just one row of stitching, have we? So let's do that. I'm going to pin this because I've already done all that. So let's take a look at the machine real quick. So you'll see I've got 3 cones of thread, and this is typical. These two do the top stitching, and this one is run underneath down into the basement, and there's one single looper under there. So it's basically like having a bobbin, and it's shared by these 2 needles. So remember how I said one of my threads broke and it kept going? So if I just pull this thread out, and I'm just going to move it completely out of the way so it doesn't try to, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and remove that cone because if I don't, it's likely to cause trouble. So now I have 2 threads, and it really wouldn't have mattered which one I removed up here, but down here, you definitely want to remove the cone that goes to the far left, and I'll show you why. I'm going to get my little thread to not be such a mess. All right. Okay. I can leave this needle in there. And for the sake of this demo, I'm going to leave it in there so you see that it is not going to affect anything about that single row of stitching. I will say that by leaving it in there, I'm just putting extra wear and tear on that needle, which means I have to replace it sooner. So as a general practice, I pop it out, but I want you to see that it doesn't matter. One other change I did discover was helpful on my machine when I'm doing this step is your cover stitch. Some sergers do not. If you've got a convertible serger, you may not have this feature, but this applies more pressure between the foot and the plate. And by applying more pressure, the machine is doing the heavy lifting. It's not letting my elastic slip back toward me. It's got so much pressure, I'd have to be pulling really hard, and there's never a reason to need to do that when you're doing this step. So with all that said, let's see if I can work around the camera that is between me and the needle. I'm going to get my project a little bit sorted out. I do not, you can pin if you want to. If you pin, I'm going to recommend that you put pins parallel to this raw edge. And remember how I talked about we want these to line up. So this raw edge needs to be meeting up with the edge of that elastic. Unfortunately, it would have been better maybe if I had a black elastic so you could really see how they're lining up. Then what I'm going to do is slide that under the foot. And once, I generally like to start my cover stitch seam at a seam. So I'm going to now take that pin out because it's not really helping me. So I start at the seam because I'm going to overstitch by a little bit, and that gets my foot away from the bulk of that seam. So let me start right here. And I'm lining the edge of my foot up exactly with the edge of the red fabric and the knit. I'm going to go ahead and do a stitch or two and stop with my needles down. Then I'm going to go down the project looking for, oh, and now remember how I like to turn mine this way, so I have to look inside. So there's my mark, my quarter mark. I'm going to pinch it. Then I'm going to go to the red fabric, and I'm going to look for that quarter mark. There it is. So I'm going to line those two up, just like that. And then I'm going to pinch it. And I need to make sure when I pinch it that I've got them perfectly lined up. And then I'm going to stretch. I'll see if I can move the camera enough for you to see. We'll see if I can get it to stay here. It's on a springy arm, if you can't tell. And I'll apologize if it starts wiggling around. That's because it's resting on my arm and I might move my arm. So I'm going to start stitching. I'm not going to go fast because I've discovered that by going fast, I just end up doing more redos because I really do, I care about how mine look, and so I end up taking it out if I've gone too fast. Now, because I let go, I want you to see something. These two are not lined up, but that's because this has to stretch. But when I stretch it, can you see how that fits now? But there it slides under. So I'm going to stretch it and make sure I stay lined up. If I don't, I'm going to end up with that problem I talked about where there's going to be too much fabric for one small little area and a bunch of flat. Don't do that. Don't have the flat. Okay, and so what I did do was move to the next quarter mark, which happens to be the center back, pinched the two together, and now I've got this big section, and I'm making sure that those two are staying lined up. And I'm using my thumb. I'm pulling this so that I can make sure that they stay lined up nicely. And I'm going to just advance a short little distance with my hand and stop at the center back. Then I'm going to realign, find my two marks. There's the center, or the third quarter, and the third quarter. Line those two up, pinch, and stretch. And you'll find that you'll build some body memory. This part of my hand has done enough of this to back in the old days when I was zigzagging and basting and serging, because I have done my fair share of serging elastic on. I use that part of my hand to pull, and my thumb does the fine adjusting. I'm going to stop for a minute. I want to ask you not to do this. So you see how my shorts are laying nice and flat right now? Don't do this. Don't stretch the shorts. We don't need to do that. When you do that, the elastic has a very hard time relaxing back into the position we want it to. It'll be saggy. So only stretch until your knit is lying flat. That's all you need to stretch. Also, resist the urge to pull out the backside. When you pull out the backside of any sewing machine, in particular sergers and cover stitchers, you will mess up the timing of the loopers down below, and that's a minimum $90 repair. And we truly do not have a budget, so our machines end up on the boneyard pile because we don't have a budget for getting them repaired. So we really appreciate if you're tender with our machines. Now I am back to center front, so I'm just going to pinch there and get this to lie nice and flat. With cover stitch machines, any chain stitching machine, you do not have the luxury of just taking the project and running it out the back and having a nice long chain. They only chain when they have fabric involved. So what you have to do is stop and lift the presser foot up, and I use my tweezers, but what works really great are those metal hem guides, because they're super thin and they're metal. They get right underneath there. Now, the loop of thread I just made, I don't know if you can see it, it's hard to see because of the red matching, but this part leads to the needle. The lower part goes through the fabric down into the cabin of the machine and wraps around the looper. It needs to come off that looper. So the best way to do it is to cut really close to the foot on that one. So now my needle thread is really long, which is not a problem. And if we pull toward the back of the machine gently, it has now come off of that looper. And all I have left is the looper thread. So I generally clip all of them together, or at the same time, I should say. All right, and just like that, we have our basting. Isn't that slick? I'll clean up my threads so that somebody else doesn't have to do that for me. And that's it. That's done. And you can see how nice and even that is up to the, I don't know if I can lay something white underneath there. When I lay that down, you're not seeing flanges of fabric wandering up and down. It's nice and even. Very easy to do on a cover stitch. So that is why we are going to employ this new method. It is fast. And once you have your stack of these done, you're just going to leave them inside out, because the girls who are going to do the cover stitch, all they have to do then is come along, fold that over, have both needles threaded, and they're going to go around. It's so easy. I will do another segment on just that step. Come see me there.